Hi, my name is Nabeel and Rizvi, and the topic for my presentation today is demand chain management. Before I tell you what demand chain management is, I will give you a brief definition of supply chain management. And after that, I will go over the topic with you, and I will take help from the article which was given to me by the instructor. The name of the article is Sustainable Demand Chain Management, an alternative perspective to sustainability in the supply chain. For further elaboration of the topic, I have used three other articles and I have provided their references at the end of my presentation. And I have covered sustainable demand chain management in sufficient detail and also included a brief analysis of the article. I hope you like my presentation and understand the topic well. Now let's go over the slides. Demand chain management. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, I will tell you first what supply chain management is. Supply chain management is the management of the flow of information, goods, and services from the suppliers to the end consumers. It includes all the processes that help in transforming raw material into final products. So the common processes that are involved in supply chain management are transportation and logistics, sourcing, demand planning, inventory management, and warehousing. So all these processes help in transforming raw materials into the final products. Now that we know what supply chain management is, we can move on to demand chain management. Basically, when we merge supply chain management, which is SCM, with customer relationship management, which is CRM, the product is demand chain management. So demand chain management comes in the center. This is clearly shown in the diagram. DCM lies where the SCM and CRM sets are overlapping with each other. So more about demand chain management. The concept of demand chain management is based upon giving importance to customer needs at each stage of the supply chain. So basically, it's all about the customers. This means that demand chain management puts power in the hands of the customers instead of the suppliers. So in the supply chain view, we start from the suppliers and suppliers have more power, but in the demand chain view, it's it's from the customer end. It starts from the customer end. Citing from Hekila 2002, it puts emphasis on the needs of the marketplace, and the chain is designed to satisfy these needs. Instead of starting with the supplier or manufacturer and working forward, it works backwards from the customer end. Next, we have push versus pull. Demand chain management is viewed as a pull strategy where the aim is to facilitate the flow in the chain according to customer requirements. While on the other hand, supply chain management is viewed as a push strategy in which products are put into the market based on historic trends and data from the past. This means that DCM, which is demand chain management, works on the build to order mechanism, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen. Production is started only after the order is received. While on the left side we can see that supply chain management is based on reliable forecasts made by a technical team that is built to forecast. Some industries which make use of the push strategy are 0% demand driven. That means that they rely totally on forecasts and they just push their products out in the market where consumers buy them according to their tastes and preferences. An example of this kind of industry is the fashion industry. New fashions come out into the market based on forecasts and not the actual demand. Other industries are 100% demand driven and work according to the pull strategy. They start producing only after the customer places an order. A very good example of this is the commercial aircraft industry. Big companies like Boeing and Airbus produce aircraft only after they receive orders from the airline giants. But the fact is that most industries are neither 100% demand driven or 0% demand driven. They lie somewhere between the two extremes. So it's kind of a continuum, and most industries lie somewhere between the two ends. Efficiency versus effectiveness. In today's world, competition has been shifted from individual firms to whole supply chains. In the supply chain view, firms focus on efficiency. This means that they want to produce more products in less time and low cost. While on the other hand, in the demand perspective, the focus is on effectiveness, which means firms want to work on satisfying consumer needs and also on building good relationships with them. How do they do this? They do this by providing better quality products and maintaining a higher level of service. The strategists who study the demand view argue that effectiveness and customer orientation should be aligned with efficient supply chain operations in order to achieve competitive advantage and superior customer value. Basically, they say that both things should go together. Customers should be made happy and efficiency should be ensured. Next, we have components of DCM. Demand chain management involves managing the integration between demand and supply processes. Next, another component of DCM is that uh, it manages the structure between integrated processes and the customer segments. And the last component is it manages the working relationships between marketing and supply chain management. Marketing is very important to the supply chain field. It's important because it enables different processes to be integrated with one another, and it achieves this by disseminating customer and market information across the supply chain. In the words of Jutner 2007, marketing fosters a demand rather than a supply-based integration of information needs. That means marketing creates a demand rather than focusing on the forecasts. Christopher and Real's 2014 have stated that with time, our supply-focused viewpoint, in which production push was the dominant factor, is turning into a demand-focused viewpoint where demand pull plays the key role. Let's consider an example of a fast-growing industry such as the mobile telecommunication industry. A good relationship between the customers and the supplier contributes to a reliable information flows and high efficiency. To be most effective, the supplier needs to be able to adapt its offering to a wide variety of customer situations and needs. So basically, marketing is very, very important to the supply chain field. The ultimate goal in any industry is to create a sustainable supply or demand chain. The article which I'm presenting, Sustainable Demand Chain Management, an Alternative Perspective for Sustainability in the Supply Chain, outlines steps for developing a framework for supply chain for sustainable demand chain management. So after we have established what supply chain and demand chain management are, now we need to discuss sustainable supply chain management, SSCM, before we can truly understand what sustainable demand chain management is. So now let's discuss sustainable supply chain management. There are two main goals behind sustainable supply chain management. The first one is that resources should be consumed in such a way that present production requirements are met. And the second goal is that resources should be consumed in such a way that our future generations are able to fulfill their needs. Here the diagram shows double-sided arrows representing the flow of information, goods, and services between the members of the supply chain. Here are the double-sided arrows. And this diagram also shows that all the members have the same set of resources here on the left hand side and the same market which they are catering to on the right hand side. And in the next slide I'll tell you what these three circles mean. These three circles. Triple bottom line. The triple bottom line is a framework consisting of three aspects which are important for sustainable development, which are profit, which is the economic aspect of the triple bottom line, the planet, which is the environmental aspect, and people, which is the social aspect of the triple bottom line. It is very important that the goals from all of these three areas, people, planet, and profit, should be aligned with the customer needs, and then the supply chain should function accordingly. So the customer needs need to be aligned with the goals of all these three aspects. This is the only way that sustainability can be achieved within the supply chain. Another aspect which is mentioned in the article is risk management. It is commonly studied with sustainability because companies often ignore the adverse impacts of their profit making on the planet and its people. They are so busy in making profit that they ignore the environment and the society. So the ultimate goal of sustainable supply chain management is the maximization of the supply chain's profitability, while at the same time minimization of environmental impacts, which is protecting the environment, and maximization of social well-being, which is protecting the society. Now that we have incorporated sustainability in our definition of supply chain management and we have understood what sustainable supply chain management is, let's see what it means in the demand chain management framework. Firms need to first identify their target markets and describe their customers' value drivers. They then need to develop value propositions to cater to the needs of their target group. These value propositions need to be integrated all across the supply chain. Each member of the supply chain needs to make sure that they give the necessary inputs which will eventually meet the needs of the customers. They need to do this, and the most important part is that they need to do all of this in a way that is not harmful to the environment or the society. This is known as sustainable demand chain management. Moving on, this article suggests that sustainable supply networks should involve their customers into the management of their sustainability activities. So that means a firm should involve its customers in all its activities related to sustainability. And furthermore, the perspective of the customers should also be converted to sustainable demand chain management. And firms should align the sustainability activities of their supply networks according to the sustainability expectations and requirements of their customers. Moller and Hallinan 1999 state that customers should be involved in initiating, developing, designing sustainable market offerings which are delivered via supply networks. The next, now let's move on to the implementation of this framework. For implementation of this new approach, a change in structure and a change in operations is required within the supply chains. But along with this, a more crucial aspect is changing the mindset and changing the behaviors of people. If the mindset and behavior is not changed to demand chain management, then we cannot have a sustainable supply or demand chain. It is also important to realize the fact that organizations have to work together to ensure a smooth and efficient demand chain. People need to see examples and learn to implement this view in their organizations. A great example of an organization following the demand chain structure is Dell. They find out what their customers actually want before starting the production and this gives them a great competitive advantage. Next, we have the analysis and conclusion. This article was very effective in explaining the core idea behind demand chain management, and it contributed well to the topic because such a framework will help individuals who are working in related fields to align their supply network with consumer needs and also think about other external factors such as the society and the environment, which is the triple bottom line. And the idea of a sustainable demand chain is becoming increasingly popular in the supply chain field. As with any research paper, this one also has a few limitations. The article itself mentions that the proposed framework requires theoretical and empirical proof to be generalized for further research. So more theoretical proof is required before further research can be carried out. Also, the economic results of sustainable supply chain management have not been well documented with empirical evidence yet, and they require further research. And interesting research avenue to explore is the sustainability actions that the markets demand and align those actions with sustainable supply chain management practices for succeeding in the economic aspect of the triple bottom line. Next, at the end, I have references. Here I have mentioned the reference to the article which was given to me by the instructor, and also all the other articles which I have used for support in my presentation. Here I have the references for the images used in the presentation. The topic demand chain management was a new one for me as I had not studied it at undergraduate level. So there was a lot of learning for me in all the material that I read for this presentation. And by studying this topic in detail, I was able to look at the big picture of a sustainable supply chain and understand its key elements in simple terms. And the whole concept of sustainability in demand chain and the triple bottom line concept was quite interesting. And I'm sure that these concepts can be used to convince individuals to think about our future generations when it comes to supply chain management. So that's it, guys. I hope you like my presentation and thank you so much. Bye bye. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me on Moodle or email me at nabeel.a.rizvi@gmail.com. Thank you.